The software hates us. It's official. Uh, Randy, well, Ryan and I were just doing Colleague Nation before coming over here, and the amount of problems we had was just disastrous. And I said, Johnny's here with us in spirit somewhere. Uh, we are watching Star Wars Ahsoka Season 1, Episode 5. We will be starting at the 2 minute, 15-second mark if you're watching this. And we'll get started in about 5 minutes' time. But first, my partners in crime, Mr. Fabulous Threesome himself. We can see him tonight, Johnny V.
For how long? Your guess is as good as mine. No, I'm doing good tonight. Great episode of Dynamite. Last one from the old ECW arena, top to bottom, great show. It's a great night. I'm excited.
Also joining us tonight, fresh off of double duty last night, the Maskosphere Live, and then I believe he did Sports Brew. Is that what it's called? Sports Brew? Um, right after that, it's Mr. Giggity Giles himself, the Grand Moff. Or Andy, what's happening, man?
Uh, same with Johnny. Enjoyed Dynamite, but yeah, it's always tough when you basically have to switch your mindset from one topic to another sometimes, just because it's been so long since we actually recorded the Sports Brew that uh, I kept in practice, obviously, uh, speaking, doing the Mask of Fear, but also it's just getting that sports head around. Just be like, all right, let's go, get that football mindset. And yeah, it was after 2+ hours of recording. uh, it was like a late night for me, but it's always a lot of fun though. Hopefully next day or so it should be out for people to enjoy. So, yeah, but I'm excited for the night because we know that this episode is kind of a big episode.
I think arguably the biggest or second biggest in the show.
Unless you're asking Kieran.
Well, Kieran wanted friggin' the Halloween 5 mask last night to be rated first overall, so, it probably tells you a lot. Also, avid Leprechaun fan. So, anyways, any, we'll give people about 5 more minutes here, maybe a little less. Any pop culture thoughts in your guys' heads before we get started tonight? Randy, anything at all come to mind?
Not off the top of my head, but I will say I'm excited for the fact that Friday Borderlands 4 drops, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. It looks good. Everything I'm hearing about it, it seems like they took everybody's criticism from 3 into account and really try to put their best foot forward this time. So I'll be disappearing this weekend because that's probably all I'm going to be doing.
Johnny?
There just really isn't, much of anything going on in the pop culture world for me. It's kind of that lull between fall TV season and summer fun. Yeah, not really much pop culture wise for me right now.
I remember back in the day, this would be the time of the year where you're counting down to that first episode of Smallville or Supernatural coming back, and now I don't really have anything I watch like that in the fall, so um, I hear what you're saying. Anyways, let's get to it. People can catch up afterwards. We're going to be starting at the 2 minute and 15-second mark of Ahsoka Season 1, Episode 5, Shadow Warrior. Please remember to keep yourselves muted, guys, when you're not talking. Someone's got some background feed going on right now, so. And we'll go when I say play. 3, 2, 1, play. Very ominous music setting the tone. So Dave Filoni to start with fucking um, Hera, considering where the last episode ended.
I liked with the beginning of the episode, just like that whole calm after a major battle. I liked the scenery. I liked just the use of the music in it, just to give you that feeling of we are not starting off on a good note here.
Hera might be one of the more underrated characters in Star Wars.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue against that. Just another in the long line of strong female presences within Star Wars, which is always welcome.
Great music.
That's one thing that's always been on point for Star Wars, though.
Seems a little aggressive, Anakin.
Anakin aggressive? Never. mean, he had to be stoked just to put a lightsaber back in his hand and get to do the fight choreography stuff. Because I remember with Revenge of the Sith, Nick Gillard talked about how he was, next to like CG Master Yoda, that he was definitely like a 9 or 10 on a scale on the scale in terms of his skill with just his movements and how quickly he could just swing the saber around. It was really cool to know that a lot of that fight choreography was like him and Ewan McGregor going at it back and forth. It was great.
Yeah, they trained for a long time on that fight. I think I'd have to go back and watch the documentary within a minute, but I believe it's like 6 months they train for it. So obviously not every day for 6 months, parts of 6 months, and some real effort. He always has such presence when he has it. Somewhere Kanan's a proud daddy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm wondering if they're ever going to delve into whether Jason actually trains or not.
Oh, Kanan knows what he did last summer.
That joke is 2 minutes in the penalty box. That's a guy who serves a long time where he's just like, yeah, okay. Not the weirdest thing I've heard.
Yeah, I don't think I'm hurrying into that either.
I lived through this once. I don't want to do it again.
I think I heard Master Yoda calling for lunch at the temple. Let me know how it goes.
Definitely the smartest way to do a flashback without having to worry about locations, having that heavy fog that just conceals everything.
Yep. When you gotta lean into stagecraft, it's passable. I'll say that. This stuff's passable for what it is, but could have added more to it if they were actually on location, but cost difference is probably massive.
It's an example of intelligent use of budget. Like, could you have blown a giant wad to make this brief little scene? Sure, but why?
Well, and if you think about it, they're trying to take something from an animated series and considering, the colors and just the locations they used, it would be really difficult to even be close to on budget if you tried to do any type of on location shooting for that.
The part where I'm like, damn, how cheap are they when they wouldn't even shell out for, Tamora Morrison's face?
Yep.
That's where I'm like, damn, you really cheaped out here.
I'm sure if, it was really truly up to Filoni, they probably would have, but we know that this is clearly during the era where Disney didn't shell out as much money for production costs as they are now, I should say, like with Andor. So it's a shame. Yeah, you're right. It could have been a lot better, but it's still, at least it gets the point across. And it was really a cool scene to, have a nice flashback from the Clone Wars.
Really? What makes you say that? I'm joking.
Such an amazing transition right there.
I'm Ahsoka right there. It's like, yeah, I can wake up anytime now, please. Anytime.
Unless they do. That's one way to put it.
Right?
His eyes narrow before he says it. He's probably thinking to himself, how do I say this without saying mass murderer, and genocide creator?
Grossly misunderstood. She isn't wrong.
If I am ever
Is that what this is about?
say that,
How dare her bring up my Vader side?
This isn't about my shortcomings, it's about yours.
That was intense. Word of the episode.
I think they need a new water treatment facility in the world beyond worlds.
That may be, but at least a hell of a way to transition from that to back to the real world.
Absolutely.
Their water bill's got to be huge.
Nah, what do you think the tides are?
Turning.
Yeah, that's them pulling water in and out of the world between worlds. By this point, has Anakin been outed as Darth Vader? I can't remember
Not
when
to the
that
galaxy,
happened.
no, but not to the galaxy, no. But there's a good bet, quite a few people know. That's what leads Kylo to turn. They never friggin' told him. Then he finds out during a live news broadcast.
You'd think she'd be in a Bacta tank right now. Like, you didn't just drown or anything.
Who knows? That Chancellor Council or whatever might not want them sparing the or giving up the back to, especially to a Jedi.
Oh, you know who
Not in the
Yang's got a
budget.
stash. You know who Yang's got a stash. He's been around Jedi long enough to know. It's like the good old days. No.
I always just love how blunt Hu Yang is.
Filoni and his fucking space whales.
Yeah, but getting to actually see them in live action versus the animation, it's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
Space whales and wolves.
Don't forget cats. The Canadian really came through on that one.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Nope. Fingers crossed.
Can you imagine how frantic it would have been if it was C-3PO talking about this rather than Hu Yang, who's been around forever?
Oh yeah.
Yang's probably like, this crazy bitch is gonna get me killed. She's gonna be the one that does it. Fucking Skywalker student. I knew it.
I survived Anakin and Obi-Wan. I survived the Clone Wars. I survived the Purge. And I die like Pinocchio?
A lot of in awe with this episode.
Such a cool visual. Just seeing how they gracefully get past all the starships and not even touch them once. This should have been accentuated. Do you believe in space whales now? You should.
All that, ladies and gentlemen, is about as good as it gets for Star Wars TV. I'm not saying it's the best Star Wars TV episode, but it's got to be on most people's top 10 lists. Randy, thoughts on the episode, man?
Yeah, some of the stuff still leaves me a bit speechless. Just the lesson that Anakin taught Ahsoka alone was, pretty powerful, pretty intense. The choreography between their fight scene was amazing. It still holds up to this day. I love just the mysticism and just the leaning into the Force that Filoni has always brought to Star Wars, and this just really just accentuates, why Lucas chose him to lead Star Wars into the future. And yeah, it's definitely one of the best episodes in the series.
Johnny?
I mean, I'd say it's easily the best episode, of the series, especially to this point for sure. It had a little bit of everything, between the space, which, as we've said before, this series has definitely achieved the greatest success of space in any of the Disney era Star Wars shows. It brought the action, it brought the nostalgia, it brought the storytelling, it brought everything, and it progressed the story forward while hitting all of those notes. Like, that's the thing with episodes like this. Sometimes you get lost in the sauce, with the nostalgia and all the other things that were part of this episode, that you don't really push the story forward. You're just building towards the next major episode to do that. But this one did the opposite. All of its nostalgia was wrapped into a lesson Ahsoka needed to learn, and you still progress the story forward. Like when we were watching it, I was like when we got to the Ahsoka waking up scene there towards the end, I hit my mouse because I thought we were near the end of the episode. We were halfway. We were only halfway, which is a testament to a good episode. I've said it before. When you get lost in the time, and something feels longer than it is, or shorter than it is, are good things. Which is weird when you phrase it like that. Like, you'd think that something that feels long is bad, but that's not inherently true, because it feels like so much has happened in such a quick time that it feels like great. Like the story progressed forward in a lot of different aspects. You got some payoff with the Ahsoka and Anakin, story that you just kind of got left hanging in Rebels. There really was no, there really has been no progression of that story past, their duel and Ahsoka being left for dead, uh, and that it's nice to see some progression there, that where you can see Ahsoka going through the motions of, Anakin, and associating him with what he'd become, and realizing that they're at least in parts, her master was still in there. It was great. I loved all of it. You also got little whispers through Jason, which was nice. Like you're definitely enhancing his character, which always great to introduce new characters and tell good stories and interweave them within the overarching story, which was great. Just all around, it was an amazing episode. Like I said, it's easily the best of the series so far. I'd be hard pressed to not say it is the best episode of the season. But if it's not, it's right up there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what you said there. I will say, as I said earlier in the episode, hitting on Jason and giving to, like, I would love to see him get trained and see maybe in the future, or maybe we get to see him a little more grown up, once they actually, if Filoni's movie or series that kind of finishes what his idea was with Thrawn. Maybe we get to see him starting his training, or maybe we get to see him, maybe he's just going to be a great fighter pilot, like his mom. We've seen force enhanced pilots before, and it definitely helps a lot. But because I could see him being better than Hera at some point. But ultimately, yeah, this hit on everything, like you said, and just the fact that we got the chance to revisit, the Clone Wars in a flashback, and we got to those transitions between Anakin and Vader were so something special. I mean, it was, and I love how with Hayden, he got to play Anakin based around what Matt Latner did for the Clone Wars, versus when he first originally played Anakin and had the character just wasn't there yet, and he had to try to make it his own. And this time he gets to play off of what's already out there, and he just knocked it out of the park.
Sorry, fellas, my phone died, and it's gonna die again. It's at all of 1%. So that is gonna do it for this show. We got to get out of here. My apologies, everybody. It's just not been a good tech savvy day. But thanks for joining us. Next week's episode 6. That's the Thrawn debut. Patreon.com/The Mask of Fear. Thanks to Johnny and Randy, and to those who watched live or watching after the fact. We appreciate you. Big shout out to our channel sponsors, Ryan over at Colic Nation, Jesse at Jesse Storytime Spectacular, and the one and only Jason Dyke at Backtrack Cinema. And thank you to all of our patrons, and we will see each and every one of you